one of the two Turkish astronauts.
The actual mission is going to start after we return back from ISS.
I was wondering whether astronauts meditated differently.
That's a tough one because I also consider myself as part of that group. Not as kids, but the youngsters. If you can transform individuals, we can transform societies.
Meet Tuva Atasever, a trailblazer in Turkey's aerospace sector. Born in Ankara in August 1992. Educated at Bilkent University and the University of California, Irvine. He specialized in electrical and electronics engineering and photonics. His space expertise was further developed through the Space Studies program at Delft University and ISU. Atasever's entrepreneurial spirit led him to co-found Blue.VR and Hypersight, focusing on virtual and augmented reality technologies. He then joined Rocketson, contributing as an avionics systems engineer on significant satellite launch vehicle projects. In 2022, Tuva's career took a historic turn when he was selected as one of Turkey's inaugural astronauts by the Turkish Space Agency. As part of his training for the Ax-3 mission, he embarked on extensive preparation encompassing various mission scenarios. His participation has been a key contribution to advancing Turkey's human spaceflight capabilities and space research efforts.
Tuva, first of all, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to do this interview. I'm very glad to meet you here in Baku. What are your impressions about Baku?
Thank you so much for extending the invitation as well. It's a pleasure to be here. So we are at the 74th International Astronautical Congress here at Baku. It is, my initial impressions are great. The venue is absolutely stunning. And the people, I'm meeting with some old friends and new friends. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be here.
Have you been to other IAC conferences before, or is this the first one?
One more I did in 2019 in Washington, D.C. It was my first IAC.
Mine too.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
And it was a good one as well. And it was right after my SSP, International Space University's SSP program. It was just 1 year after that. And it was an exciting and reunion sort of rich
Absolutely.
IAC.
Yeah. These conferences are to reunite with all the friends around the world. And it's amazing that we're here in Baku.
Yeah.
Tuva,
yes.
My most important questions, of course, are you. First of all, congratulations on becoming one of the two Turkish astronauts.
Thank you.
And tell me, how does it feel to be on the cusp of such historical event, historical journey?
Well, it is exciting. Above anything, it is a pure joy for me. I've always wanted to get to know more about these kinds of platforms like ISS or Crew Dragon. So for me, it is like being a kid in a candy store. I love every second of it. And beyond joy and excitement, it's a huge honor as well. As you mentioned, it is becoming one of the two first astronauts of Turkey has been the biggest honor and privilege of my life, and I'm trying to live up to that responsibility and that level of work that we're going to carry out, hopefully with our space mission.
With the mission being part of Turkey's 10-year plan for space, how do you see this journey contributing to overall Turkey's larger vision in space exploration? So
the human spaceflight was, as you mentioned, one of the 10 projects, one of 10 goals that was set by the agency a couple of years back. And I believe this mission, the important part of the particular astronaut mission is to not just to carry out some scientific experiments on board ISS, but more importantly, the actual mission is going to start after we return back from ISS. We are going to travel the entire country and hopefully tell the story of what we have done over the last couple of months and inspire people, inspire youth, most importantly, to pursue careers in space industry. And that is going to help every single program goal that we have set up for the next 10 years and hopefully uplift our people's lives in a better way.
I think that you're going to have around 13 experiences during the time at the ISS.
13 experiments in total, yes.
Can you share some of them?
Sure, absolutely. So we are going to cover a broad range of scientific experiments and carry them out while we're on board ISS. They range from biomedical to human physiology to plant physiology to material science. Just to briefly mention a couple of my, I don't want to say favorites, but the ones that I'm really looking forward to is one of them is we're going to carry out some CRISPR experiments on board ISS. We are going to alter the genome of a particular plant that we're going to launch from ground and freeze it until return, and after returning back to home, and it will go through some transcriptomic analysis to see what has happened to the plant and if the CRISPR gene editing intervention was successful or not. That's one thing that I'm really interested about, because long term, not right now, not within 5-10 years, but 20, 25, 30 years maybe, we might need to alter our own genes or the genes of our crops that we're going to grow on Mars or on the moon. So that's CRISPR gene editing technology, both for plants and also in the mid to long term for human beings, is super valuable. I'm looking forward to that experiment. The other one that we're going to carry out has to do with cancer research. So in our bodies, there are particular cells called myeloid suppressant cells. They are essentially immune system suppressant cells. When you have gotten cancer, if the amount of those particular cells increase in your bloodstream, your body's ability to fight against that cancerous tumor is diminished. So some of the researchers from Hacettepe University in Ankara are gonna look at how the myeloid suppressant cells concentration in the blood of an astronaut changes during the ISS mission, but also during the suborbital mission, during those high intensity, high risk, high stress activities. How does that affect, and how does that being in microgravity affect those cells? And can we understand that those mechanisms in a better way to develop some therapeutics that will help people fight cancer? And another one that I'm really interested about has to do with material science. What we're going to do, we're going to mix a bunch of elements together to create a super alloy. It's going to be a bunch of metallic elements that we're going to hopefully mix. And we're going to melt it, and we're going to solidify it. During the melting and the solidification process, we're going to look at certain things, certain characteristics, how those two processes envelop, and during the solidification, what kind of a crystallization occurs and whatnot. By understanding some of the critical material science properties of that superalloy, we're looking forward to develop some suitable materials for space applications in the mid to long term. That is one of the experiments that I'm really excited about. And we also have a bunch of human physiology experiments. We are going to collect as many specimens from our astronauts as possible. And we're going to be the guinea pigs, if you will. And the researchers based in Turkey, actually, those 13 experiments, all of them are based in Turkey, research institutes or universities. They're going to look at us and understand what kind of a metabolic changes occur, what kind of a immune system changes occur, and hopefully by understanding more of what happens to human beings during a microgravity spaceflight, can we translate those things into terrestrial-based therapeutic systems? So it's a very tiny introduction of very large 13 different experiments, and I'm looking forward to it. We're excited and looking forward to sharing the results as well once we are done with those experiments. Absolutely.
But even this little introduction of this 3 that you mentioned, it was very incredible to listen. You mentioned also about the high stress level while you're going to be at the ISS.
Yeah.
So can you tell me more about the current astronaut training that you're going through?
Sure. Well, it has started roughly 6 months ago at Houston, Texas. We are part of the Ax-3 mission, and the training has been going splendidly. I mean, as I told you before, I feel like being a kid in a candy store. It's just being exposed to those types of information about the space station, about the Crew Dragon, and all the things that goes into a successful human space flight is super exciting, super interesting for me as an engineer. And we have been training mainly at NASA's Johnson Space Center at Houston, Texas. And majority of our training is in the mock-up facilities, running through simulations, both emergency and routine ops simulations, and getting ourselves familiar with the entire ISS platform and how to operate within, how to safely use the payload racks and carry out our experiments that I just talked about, and also how to help the crew in the case of an emergency, and in the case of a fire or depress or some toxic atmosphere events. And we want to be safe, we want to be helpful to the expedition crew. We're getting some necessary training on that front as well. Also, we're getting training on the Crew Dragon at SpaceX's facilities in Hawthorne, California. That is a joy as well, and being inside of that vehicle is a splendid thing. Yeah.
Can you share most of the challenging moments that you're going through
During the
training? Yes.
Well,
honestly, it looks like it's everything so easy.
Honestly, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not like we are having too much difficulty adapting, understanding, grasping the information. NASA has been, through the first 2 private missions, tailoring the training process. There's still a road to go. There are still things that need to be tailored and further developed, for sure. But they have gained some valuable experiences for the before our mission with the first 2 missions. So it's a learning process. It's a growing process, and they have managed to design this training program. They have been doing it for a long time, right? For their expedition crew members. So they know how to deliver the information effectively and efficiently. They know how to have us practice those theoretical knowledge through some simulations, both medical emergency simulations and subsystem and station-wide related emergency simulations, and also, as I mentioned, routine ops. Day in the life of an astronaut. We just go into the mock-up facilities from time to time during those training sessions and run through a bunch of procedures and daily activities and get ourselves acclimated and familiarized with the daily operations of the ISS. So not a lot of challenging moments. For me personally, I do not come from any kind of a military background, and I don't have that operational, if you will, heritage. And that communication strategies, communication protocols with the ground, those are new things for me, but I'm adapting, I'm learning. It's a good journey. I
think it's passion and excitement that makes it easier for you.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
And how do you prepare yourself mentally for the journey?
Mentally, well, I meditate, honestly. I try to focus every single morning before heading out. Do some stretching and meditation and whatnot.
How long?
20 minutes, 20, sometimes 30.
I was wondering whether astronauts meditated differently.
No, it's all the same. Yeah. In microgravity, I would assume it's something
Maybe you'll
different.
be just like floating.
Yeah, it would be interesting. There was one NASA astronaut that I was listening to his podcast, and he was mentioning meditating while on board, and in the cupola, I mean, he's meditating, eyes closed, but just opens up on.
Everything what he has been envisioning probably there on Earth, he can see now there while he's
very unique perspective. So mental preparation, I mean, I try to invest in those kinds of interventions, but most importantly, I have this internal combustion going on, right? I'm motivated towards space and human space flight, and those interests, those excitements sort of propel me and keep me sane, if you will, towards the end.
You sound very passionate and motivated about space, but has it been always your dream to go to space?
I wouldn't say so. As a child, I was not running around and telling that I want to be an astronaut. No, I mean, we talked about this a lot with Alper. Actually, we were asked this question a lot, and usually the answer that we give has to do with our mental conceptions while we were kids. We didn't have any role models in front of us to plant that seed inside of our brains that I could be an astronaut. That is a potential path for me. We've never had that. So we personally, I never had the mental image of me someday in the future becoming an astronaut. That might be a reason. I remember
it's a different era than with US and the Apollo era, where all the kids like, I'm gonna be an astronaut.
Exactly. Yeah.
Different.
It's different.
But now you're the heroes of today and of tomorrow for the next generation of Turkish kids.
That's the hope. That's our goal. That's what we want to inspire. United States, since 1960s and 70s, with the Apollo program and the beginning of it, the Mercury Gemini program and the shuttle era, they have been launching humans consistently for the last couple of decades, and they have been creating what they call Apollo moments for their kids. They're just in front of the TV or in the radio, listening to it, and during the moon landings or regular launches, right? Even seeing a shuttle launch might significantly affect the child's imagination and future planning. So that's what we want to create in Turkey with the kids and with the youths, and hopefully open up a pathway for them to follow.
Absolutely. And actually, that would be interesting also to know, like, what message would you want to send to the kids and to the youngsters of Turkey?
Sure. Wow. That's a tough one, because I also consider myself as part of that group, not as kids, but the youngsters. So I think the most important thing is to find what you really love. This sounds very how do you say? Cliche and banal platitudes, right? Find your passion and follow it. But cliches are cliches because they have been overfelt and overexperienced by many people over very long durations of time, and they have become unmovable truths. And that's why I strongly believe it's validity, that's finding something that you're really passionate about, and while doing that, setting some bold, adventurous dreams and turning those dreams into tangible goals. I think that's the key. If you can merge those two ideas together, it can be space industry. It can be, you can be a lawyer or a socialist, and not a socialist. You can be a lawyer or a sociology major. And if you're passionate about space and you want to carry that perspective to space and tell a new story, I think you can do that. There are paths right now that are opening those possibilities as well.
Absolutely. We're all very glad that now we can attract like so many more people from different disciplines. The space enthusiast doesn't mean that, okay, people need to go to space right now, right? Or you need to be an astronaut. You can be so much like other things. And this is incredible. And I believe I still believe that for our space enthusiasts, especially maybe from Turkey, it would be interesting to know what was this turning point of your life where you said, okay, I should consider this path, even though that as a kid, you didn't have these intentions yet.
Yeah. So the realization of my fascination with space actually started around 2014, 2015. And I was watching this Apollo astronaut. I believe it was Jim Lovell, an Apollo 8 astronaut. And he was speaking about like the orbited moon. And I don't know who took it, but Apollo 8 crew also took this very famous Earthrise image. The Earth rises over the horizon of the moon's orbit. That's just beautiful, beautiful shots. And he was talking about the fact that he could cover the Earth with his thumb. And the thing that very simple act of closing the Earth with his thumb, what it did to him psychologically, from the perspective, how it changed and shifted his perspective, learning about those things really got me interested in space exploration and human spaceflight. What is this about? What is this change that is happening? And I got familiarized with the overview effect that astronauts have been able to experience for the last couple of decades. And I've been, utterly amazed by the idea that people can change that drastically. I mean, astronauts, they know, right? They know that Earth is in the middle of nothing. In the solar system, we're just standing in void and orbiting a relatively mid-sized star. Not too much around, and it's a very unique place. They knew that conceptually, but experiencing it themselves did something to them. So I read more, I got interested in more. I formed this idea of going to the moon one day and watching the Earth rise, just long in the future. Thing like the commercialization of space might enable me to do it as a private citizen. That was my potential pathway, but I never envisioned that I could go on to that path as one of Turkey's first two astronauts. We don't have a human moon mission right now, but
We will.
we will have it. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, like, after this turning point of your life, after you watched this interview, probably it was.
Yes, it was Jim Lovell's
yeah.
interview. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, then, because like you have an electrical and electronics engineering degree that
Sure.
you've done in Turkey
Yep.
at the Bilkent University.
Yep.
And then afterwards, so like, was it before the turning point or was it after? And when happened SSP? I think that would be also very interesting to know.
Well, it was after. It was after I graduated from my undergraduate university,
Mhm.
and while I was in the United States and doing
California?
in California, getting my master's in the field of photonics. It was not directly related with space. I mean, it was a personal interest of mine. I just stumbled upon that interview. It's just serendipity, right?
Mhm.
It just happened, and I started to dig more. It was after. I mean, well, as kids, sometimes it might be difficult to grasp the full potential of what something is, anything. And as we grow up, and for males, that is even more true because our prefrontal cortex development does not end until we're 25. For females, it's a little earlier than that. So, and I after that point, while I was reading about the whole potential of human spaceflight and how it can transform societies, not just individuals. If you can transform individuals, we can transform societies. So reading about those and envisioning about those potentialities, got me really interested. I was a little older, and roughly 10 years ago, that idea started to form in me.
Mm-hmm. And then you decided to go to ISU.
So that was also a serendipitous event, actually. And I knew about ISU, International Space University's SSP, Space Studies program. But I never envisioned that as a possibility either.
It just happened.
It happened. Even a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, was going, and they were looking for, so my previous work, while I was working at Roketsan,
Mm-hmm.
that colleague, who was an older colleague, actually, she had applied, and they wanted 2 individuals to go, actually, instead of 1. So it's a very long...
From Turkey?
From my company.
Mm-hmm.
My company wanted to send not 1, but 2 individuals to gather more benefits out of it, because it's a very intensive and very...
exactly. It was like 9-week, in very intense program.
Exactly. And it's both long and also very busy, and it's very comprehensive. There are lots of topics to be covered.
Basically, I've heard that, like, because there is also a year program for that, and
Yeah,
whatever
the
they do
master's
within
program.
a year, they try to put it actually within this 9 weeks.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I heard about that as well. The master's program, it's a much longer process, but SSP is super
Really
condensed
intense.
into a summer, essentially, and it's carried out different places of the world every year, and just like IAC, actually. And I mean,
Where was yours?
Delft, in Delft, Netherlands, and it was organized in cooperation with TU Delft, Leiden University, and ISS.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. It was 135 participants from 35 countries, all over the world. I mean, major space agencies, major space companies, and enthusiasts, and lawyers, architects, and medical doctors. it was a great experience, and I was able to learn about the complex human and also exploration space missions, and what goes into making those successful missions. And both from an engineering perspective, from business and management perspective, from a policy perspective, and also human perspective. We were given the different avenues, different windows of how each discipline works, comes together, and creates this complex space exploration missions. It was a very, very useful, beneficial experience for me overall.
How did this program specifically help you to prepare for the, let's say now, upcoming mission?
Well,
besides a lot of fans from the ISU who are your friends, and they're extremely happy for you that you are now one of the Turkish astronauts.
Yeah. So one of the main pillars of ISU is the international aspects of it. And they go out of their ways to promote international cooperation between parties, between different actors within the space industry, and they want to create an environment in which various perspectives can come together, work together to create those complex space missions. And gaining that perspective, gaining that hands-on experience with my team projects, and also area specializations that we were following during that 9 weeks period, I was able to acclimate myself to the environment of that I'm in today with the upcoming mission to the ISS, and preparing for that international aspect of it. We are going to, this mission, our Ax-3 mission, after it's launched, it will have, per citizenship, the most international crew ever in the ISS history.
Have you met your crew already? I see.
Oh, I have, yeah. Many of them. The crew 7 astronauts who are on board right now, we met while we were training at Houston, and we had a lovely time with them. And my dear crewmates for Ax-3, we have been training for the last 6 months. So
how is the dynamics between you?
It's beautiful. I mean, we get along perfectly well. We are focused to making this mission a success. And hopefully, by carrying out some meaningful research in microgravity, improve life here on Earth. That's our ultimate goal.
Great. And maybe can you tell me, how do you envision the dynamics on board?
Sure.
That will happen, especially looking at the diversity of the crew members, as you mentioned, and its internationality.
Sure. So I do not anticipate any issues when it comes to our cordial relationship and working together with the existing crew, expedition crew, and also our Axiom crew. We are going to have a lot of people from different backgrounds and different nationalities, different perspectives, but we're all bound together with the passion towards human spaceflight. And as I mentioned, carrying out those critical research endeavors, learning more about both human physiology and also microgravity research, and take those initiatives and translate into some useful applications for people on Earth and improve lives of everyday people. That's what we're passionate about. That's what ties us, and that unbreakable tie is going to help us overcome any issues if they were to arise. So, no anticipated problems, pure joy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me as well. Yeah. Thank you.